Hi there folks, my name's Novoing24 and welcome to another little Microsoft Flight Simulator product review. So today we're going to be having a look at the very recently released rendition of the Pilatus PC-12 from the very expert team over at Carenado. So the Pilatus PC-12 is a fascinating aircraft, and Carenado, as a long-term flight simulation developer, definitely have a lot they've got a reputation for delivering a great quality product. So we shall have to see if their reputation continues to live up to itself with the release of this aircraft. Now, the Pilatus PC-12 is a fascinating little sort of single-engine, single turboprop it's an interesting aircraft. It's a hybrid sort of business-type sort of aircraft, with also featuring and being used as a low passenger count sort of feeder regional sort of route airliner aircraft as well. But primarily, it does serve the private sector and the sort of charter and bizjet sort of alternative market. But as well as that, it's been adapted into a number of special missions throughout for a variety of operators globally, most notably finding a starring role as an aeromedical platform throughout for a number of aeromedical services around the world. And for me, that is the number one reason, I'll be honest, why I purchased this particular aircraft. Now, in terms of the format review, folks, it's going to be the pretty standard review format that we go through here on the channel. We'll be going through having a look at the external model here on the ground. Then we'll be going through having a look at the interior, cold and dark startup, then a full flight and landing, and then give our final thoughts. Now, in terms of this aircraft, the team at Carenado are no strangers to the Pilatus PC-12, having released this aircraft for the legacy ESP platforms, both FSX and prepared in all its variety of flavors, along with releasing a rendition of the aircraft in X-Plane 11. So the team is definitely no stranger to the PC-12. So it's going to be, looking at the model, the team has definitely delivered a really high quality external model with all functions, it's all features and some great detail, and the texture sets being quite well done as well, including a full implementation of Microsoft Flight Simulator's decal system in a number of places. So the team has definitely done themselves proud. It is from looking at this as a livery creator, the model is and looking at the texture sheets, the model is it's not identical to the one that they've previously used for X-Plane and Prepared, but it is 98% the same. They definitely have, though, cleaned it up and done work on it, so it is definitely an improvement on the model, though in very, very minor ways. But either way, the team has delivered us quite a really beautiful looking aircraft, so I have to say that. You do get a number of sort of static and external elements that you've probably noted as we've been doing our camera orbit here, including a external ground power unit, chocks as various safety cones, and various reds, sort of pitot heat covers, engine exhaust covers are all featured in this rendition of the aircraft as well. So, can't really fault the external model of this aircraft. As I said, it does what it says on the tin, and it does what it says on the tin. And realistically, it is one of the things that Carenado are probably the most famous for, is delivering a really high quality visual experience from the aircraft. So that's sort of essentially really does sort of wrap up the details here. But as I said, modeled with the radar here on the side, and the landing lights and the taxi lights are all fully operational in this one as well. And as I said, a full implementation of the decal system as well. What's interesting as well is that for those who might be technically interested, there's although it's the one base 3D model, there's actually 6 variations that relate to the application of decals and sort of livery markings, but also to how the registration is displayed. So the registration is fully customizable across all of the 10 liveries that are included with this aircraft. So you get 9 colored liveries, as well as a basic plain white edition. All right, well, that's enough of looking around the outside of the aircraft. Let's jump into the office and get ourselves underway and see what it's like in the cockpit. Alrighty, so here we are in the office of the PC-12 from Carenado. So, first thing to probably note is that it isn't necessarily a glass cockpit aircraft, especially for those of you who may know the aircraft in real life and may have seen plenty of photos kicking around the interwebs of the cockpit of a PC-12. You may be sort of going, there seem to be a lot more steam gauges than you might have been expecting. Now, as I said, the PC-12 is the best-selling and is the most popular single-engine turboprop in its class. It has been for a number of years. The PC-12 was first introduced in 1989 and continues to be produced to this day. So the particular, and it's gone through a number of iterations of variations of the airframe over the years. So this particular version of the aircraft that has been modelled and is provided to us by Carenado as part of this add-on is not the latest PC-12NG or NGX. This is the PC-1245, which was it's not the initial production version, but it's the initial production version with a couple of iterative upgrades that have come through. So what's the so what of that? So what of that is that you have a cockpit that is not all glass. So the NG and the NGX both have a full glass cockpit with Honeywell avionics. That has not been modeled by Carenado. So this essentially harkens back to their previous release versions of the aircraft where they've modeled the same version. So in a way, I have to sort of say that Carenado stuck to what they know, which is the PC-1245, and they've just continued to just re-release the same model. But conversely, it kind of feels a little disappointing that, and don't get me wrong, I love sort of steam gauge cockpits, but it is sort of a bit surprising, and I did kind of expect that Carenado would have taken the time, would have taken the opportunity with the release of Microsoft Flight Simulator to refresh this product that had its origins and released to the community for F6 a not insignificant number of years ago, to deliver us the NG or the NGX. So a little bit surprising on that. So it doesn't really affect. Well, it may affect your decision to buy it, but it doesn't detract too much. But it is something that I did note for that one. Now, on to the cockpit. As I said, the cockpit gives us good detail, great texture implementation. As I said, it's this hybrid steam and electronic gauge without being a full glass cockpit. So you do still have mostly sort of physical controls that you can interact with. Now, having said that, the team at Carenado did also include electronic flight blade, the Carenado tablet, which is a staple feature as part of their product releases for the Microsoft Flight Simulator line, and indeed for other their other sim products as well. So in this tablet, much like we see with things like with pretty much everybody else who's releasing an EFB and a tablet for their aircraft these days, you have the option to control a number of sort of static options and other various different things that you can do. So what we'll do is we'll change a couple of those around right now. So what we'll do is we'll turn our static elements off, which takes all the pitot tube heat and all the covers off. Tow bar is something that I didn't have on, but is just a visual one. It doesn't actually slew or control the aircraft at all. Let's close the passenger door, which is actually, you can actually hear it thunk and actually animate behind you, which is kind of cool. So beyond the sort of animation controls here, you also have the option. This is sort of the one sort of allowance that Carenado's given us to a more modern cockpit, is that the aircraft does fully support and fully integrates with the renditions of the Gamma GTN 750, both from PMS and TD simulations. So TD simulations with the 750XI and PMS 50 simulations for the GTN 750. So both of those are available to you and do have an option of installing and activating if you so desire. I actually have both of them, but I don't have the 750XI installed at the moment. But what I am going to do is I am going to fly this with the 750 enabled. Interestingly enough, you do have to do this before you start the aircraft, before you start your flight. So you just make sure it all works. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch it over. And as soon as I've switched it to on there, you're going to actually see that the bezel's changed and it's actually automatically placed the 750 unit there in place of the 530. Now, If you don't have those, that's fine. It does have the Asobo default GNS 530 and 430 units, fully integrated and fully functional in the aircraft. So if you don't have those add-ons, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You still have your GPS experience through those. But as I said, I am going to test fly it with the GTN 750 enabled today. So let's turn that one over. All right. Moving on, so you do have your startup options, so you can actually sort of select whether you want a cold and dark cockpit. So we're doing a cold and dark start as part of this review today. Alternatively, if you want to sort of jump straight and be ready to fly, you can click here for ready for taxi or ready for takeoff, and it will automatically set the aircraft into that state for you, so you don't have to worry about learning the switches. Beyond that page, then the final two pages are a couple of checklists. Now, I'm going to call it my first major disappointment with this aircraft and this release from Carenado as a developer. So it's great that you've got these checklists here, Carenado. That's great. They're very abbreviated, basic checklists, but they do what they say on the tin. However, the problem that I have is that this is blank. So the full actual interactive checklist that the Microsoft Flight Simulator supports is not provided by Carenado. Now, given that Carenado are a first-party dev, and the fact that they're many of the default and some of the default aircraft that ship with the sim were produced by Carenado for Asobo and Microsoft. So Carenado have had access to this sim for longer than any of the rest of us have, and yet. And the fact that the checklists, the interactive checklists, are a feature of default aircraft and have become the standard for third-party developers. To see essentially the third-party dev that has the most access to the core development team not include those is incredibly disappointing. Now, some portals say, well, why are you bothering about that? It comes with checklists, which it absolutely does. Like, it comes with essentially a copy of the real world PC-12 checklist, but that's provided to you as a PDF. So it's a separate document that you got to open up on a separate window or export onto another device in order to enable you to use it. And quite frankly, sure, you can do that, but the interactive checklist is now standard. That's a minimum expectation now. If the default aircraft have it, then a payware aircraft absolutely should have it. I know that not all payware developers are doing it at the moment, and not all, or they are, but made to varying degrees of implementation. But to have nothing here is just really disappointing, and quite frankly, I kind of don't find it really acceptable for payware. As I said, I'm familiar with. I actually have control time. I've PRC time with turboprop, single turboprop aircraft. I've got the basics, but not in a PC-12. I've never flown in a PC-12, either on the flight deck or down the back. So, TBM 930 that ships with the sim is similar, but it's not the same. So having these checklists are really important, especially for newer virtual aviators who want to learn their aircraft. This is really important thing to have. It makes flight sim accessible. So to deliberately not develop it when the sim now is over 2 years old, I kind of don't find it acceptable, if I'm honest. And as I said, I know some people might be taking offense to the fact that I'm pointing this out, but realistically, if a developer like JustFly can put in a fully detailed, by the numbers interactive checklist for a 4-engine airliner, then there is absolutely no excuse that a team like Carenado is not putting a checklist for a single engine turboprop. So yeah, major issue with that. So anyway, all right, let's move past that. So what I'm going to have to do is essentially I'm going to have to wing the startup checklist because I don't have one here. As I said, I know I said that it's in the PDF format, but you know what? I'm using it like an end user, which means not going to do. We don't have that, and it's not like it's easily accessible. It's buried inside the installation folder. If you don't know to look for it, you're not going to find it. So what we'll do is we're going to hide our tablet as we prep for takeoff here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and start our takeoff here. Also, something else that I noticed as well. So actually, I'll pull that tablet back out actually, because I do want to quickly show this again. So let's skip back to the page before. So you saw that I've got the external power connected, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to switch to external power on. Okay, so I've got nothing live in the cockpit. Turn my battery on. So I've got my battery masters, both 1 and 2 are on. External power is active, and yet I'm not receiving any power from outside. So it's literally the external power unit is there as a visual only. Like, it is not there for any kind. It doesn't actually do anything in the sim. So again, is it something that's a sim breaker? That's an add-on breaker? Potentially not really, but at the same time, it is disappointing to go, hey, why aren't we doing this? So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm essentially going to pack that away because it is of no value to me. So we're going to turn that one off there. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to turn our pilots on for when, so we don't look like a ghost aircraft when we go to external views later. All right, so that's all set there. So we're going to close our tablet. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through our startup sequence here. So we're going to turn our avionics buses on, which I am using my honeycomb yoke today, so they are assigned to my, I've got my buttons on my controllers for those. So we've got our avionics set up. So we're going to be, we're taking off here from Switzerland and heading to Innsbruck in Austria as part of our demonstration and our test flight today. So I do have a full flight plan added in, complete with an approach path as well. So this is going to be very interesting to see how I go with this. I think it's going to be a bit of a mess, but we'll find out. We're going to set our cruise altitude as well. So we're going to be cruising at 15,000 feet. So I am going to preset that here on our altitude select. There we go. Okay, that's done. There we go. And the autopilot is interesting as well, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. All right, my altimeters are set and we're good. In terms of avionics as well, as I said as well, you've got the GNS 530 430 combination or 750 and 430 combination if you have any of the 750s available. You also have the Avidyne Flight Max system included here as well, which is given a it is functional. However, I am not sure about how some of the not sure how, but the functionality of some of the features. It does also include a weather radar, but it appears to not be functional. It does have your terrain notification though, so you do have your terrain radar included with this, so that is visually included. You get your trips, so you have flight plan. You've got our flight plan, as you can see, already enabled. So we've got that there. You also have your airport information, so your nearest information, so you can actually go through here and select your airport info if you need to go through it. So, which is fairly useful and actually great to have that database actually accessible in your sim directly. This doesn't require Navigraph or anything like that. This is actually just simply built into it, and I believe it pulls the data directly from your sim. So we do have, yes, actually, well, there you go. It actually says it here. So it actually says basically provided to be used simulation data from Microsoft Flight Simulator. Cool. Done. So you can go through, there are a couple of options here. Not really going to go through them too much. And then we've got the radar there, which allows you to actually sort of, you can check you actually can't control or change anything. The only thing you can adjust is you can adjust the range information on there. Though seeing that, even though you change the range scale, it doesn't actually seem to do anything with it. Also, that probably shouldn't be powered on when you're on the ground. Anyway, all right, so, but we'll leave it set on our map and terrain system for a little bit later on. So we can zoom that in. There we go. All right. Now, on with starting the aircraft today. Okay, so as I said, I've got my battery master is on. All right, I'm going to move my seat rest arms out of the way a little bit here for our start. Okay. I'm going to go beacon lights on, fuel pump set to on. Now we're going to open up our fuel valve. Okay, and then back up to the top here. So we're going to go ignition set to on and starter engage. And I'm going to watch my N1 rising, get to around 12%. Blade starts turning, and engine condition lever to ground idle. ITT rising, engine oil pressure is in the green, temperature moving to the green. ITT stabilizing. And generators on. Okay. Navs. And taxi lights on. Okay, altimeter is set. Now let's check our windsock. So we've got a bit of a crosswind today for our departure, but very light winds for this one. Alright. So we are good for almost good for our taxi. We're going to put our inertial separator, which should have been on actually at the start, so that's my bad. Put our pitot heat on. Leave the rest of our de-icing off for now, until we commence our takeoff roll. Okay, so everything looks good for our taxi. And as I said, this is the thing, is that there is no checklist for me to check this off. Like, there's no interactive checklist in the sim, which, while, as I said before, like, for PC users, less of an issue, because, you know, we can, if you, once you know that it's there, you can ferret around inside the install folder and open up the documentation. But for our Xbox aviators, or aviators who don't have multiple monitors, that's not as easy a capability. We're going to parking brake off. Now, I want you to note something here. As soon as I've gone parking brake off, I have throttle at idle and I'm not moving. Okay? So just so we're clear on that one, so we can all see that. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to slightly raise the throttle, and I've gone straight back to idle, and we're now rolling. Now, my problem with this is the speed it's taxiing at. Now, as I said, I can't 100% vote for this because I haven't flown a PC-12, but the taxi speed seems to be inordinately fast, and we'll see this more once we cross the runway here and taxi down for our threshold for our departure. Okay. So this part is right. So once the parking brakes in, I didn't engage the parking brake there. I just had the tow brakes on, leaving the aircraft at idle. It's then started rolling, which is the expected behaviour that I have. But the speed it taxis at it just feels fast. Like, I'm happy to be wrong if there is an actual PC-12, somebody with actual time in a real life PC-12 45 that, you know, can speak to this. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you, because this seems to be inordinately fast for its taxi. As I said, I've still got the throttle at full idle. Engine condition lever is set to ground idle, and I am taxiing really quite fast. It really seems like I am taxiing significantly too fast. As I said, happy to be proved wrong, but it just feels off. It feels off. Alright, so that's fine. We'll wait at our hold short point. Okay, let's do our final. Alright, flaps set to 15 degrees for departure. Oh. Too far, bring it back up to 15. That's better. Okay. Trims. Let's check our trims. Trims are in the green. Check. Okay. Taxi lights off, landing lights on. Check, strobe lights on. Prop de-ice on. Passenger no smoking and seatbelt signs on. And ignition set to auto. Pumps set to auto. Okay, we are good for departure. Let's taxi out onto the active. Go. Throttling up. Engine condition lever forward to flight, idle, and off we go. They definitely modelled the kick that the PT6 could give you when you push it, when you come off the brakes with a lot of power. That definitely got modelled correctly. That crosswind, oh, that's a bit of a crosswind I think we're getting. Joys of recording a video with live weather. Okay. Knots. Gear up. Flaps up. Back on the power, bring the ITT down a little bit. Go. So this is something that I find that the aircraft just seems to be underpowered. So there's a couple of things about the engine that I sort of notice here is that it just, like the PC-12 is known for its exceptionally good short field and time to climb performance and hot and high conditions sort of performance. But it feels that Carenado's rendition of this aircraft just seems both underpowered in the air, but then overpowered on the ground during the taxi. It's really weird how it feels like this. Like it just feels this. It's got this weird sort of juxtaposition that it feels for me. As I said, I have to be very cautious and very mindful of the fact that, as I said, like I have not flown this aircraft in real life, but I have, as I said before, like I do have piloting command time of a single engine turboprop powered by a PT6, and this aircraft just feels underpowered. Yeah, it really does. Like, as I said, I can't really say more than that. The other thing, again, about the engine as well is that the sound set. Now, the PT6 is not a quiet engine. It is not a quiet engine. But the sound set for this is just flat, is what I'm going to say. And we'll hear it a bit more on the outside once we get into our cruise here. I just want to make sure that we're clear of the mountains before I turn onto our GPS course. It really feels flat. Is what the engine sound. The engine sound just sounds flat. Like there's no bottom end to it. There's no top end to the engine sound. It just feels flat. So and that's kind of disappointing. It feels like, did somebody at Carenado forget to switch to WY sound set? Are they reusing the sound set that they use for FSX? I don't know, but it really feels flat as a sound set, this one. Alright, so we're coming up here, we're clear of the mountaintops now, so I'm going to be turning to intercept our GPS course. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set, we're going to preset our AP on, so we're going to go nav holes, Flight director is on, your dampener is on. And what we're going to do is we're going to set, so we're going to go to altitude arm. We're going to go vertical speed. Set vertical speed. We're going to set it up at 1,000 feet per minute. And then we're going to go AP on. Okay. Feet. There we go. Oh, and we've flown into some beautiful stormy weather as part of this one. Alright, make sure that, yeah, I do have my de-icing on. We're going to put windshield de-icers are going to go on as well. Keep the rain and the rain repellent. As we continue our climb up to our cruising altitude of 15,000 feet. This gives me the opportunity to just quickly talk about the cockpit here as well. Something to note as well for users of the autopilot. You will notice that I used this to set my altitude and also my vertical speed rather than this. So although the information is able to be given to you sort of if you hover your mouse over it, sort of saying, yeah, your altitude, your vertical speed indicator, or your rate is there, you can't actually change it by, you know, down or up on here. Pressing the down or up on this autopilot control panel here won't do squat. If you want to change your vertical speed or you want to set your altitude, if you just want to use altitude hold, you want to brute force and say manually fly to an altitude and just go altitude hold, you can tap that and it'll grab whatever altitude you're at and you will go to it and you'll stay on there. However, if you want to do altitude arm, you want to set your altitude you want to climb to, and then ascend to it, you have to use this system here. So, and it is obviously very clearly labeled altitude, vertical speed, mode control. So, just a little bit of one of those little gotchas for people that might be unfamiliar with this one, with this, some of these. I don't want to say older avionics, but actually, honestly, it is. Where it is, they are separate here from the main autopilot panel. Now, second thing to show off here as well is also if you're using your, so if you want to use your course, or if you want to change some of the systems on your center displays here, this is actually where you change them. So you can actually sort of change your nav GPS mode. So for example, if if these were to fail, if they weren't enabled, this is where you change from radar, so radio navigation to GPS nav. Also allows you to control the type of mode, so you can actually show an arc as opposed to a full, or you got HSI mode. So arc or HSI, they're either or. This is also where you control your heading bug from, so as you notice there's no sort of pull-out controls here. Your heading bug and your course bug are controlled, and they're also mirrored across both displays. They are actually controlled from these two columns here, which is probably more important for when you're doing, as I said, radio nav, or if you're doing ILS approaches, this is where those are going to be hold, or of course your heading hold. Alright, that's pretty much the major gotchas that you've got there. Actually, you know what, let's have a look and actually test the weather radar here, shall we? So let's move that over to weather radar. So, okay, you know what, I take that back, the weather radar looks like it is actually functional. So it does actually show some clouds ahead, which is right. So let's check the range on that one, 30 nautical miles. Yeah, it tracks about right. So the weather radar does look like it is actually functional, which is kind of cool. I was not expecting it to be functional, so that's great to see that the weather radar is functional on this aircraft. Props to Carenado for delivering that one. That is cool. Alright, well, now that we've had a good look around the office and we've established in our cruise now, let's now jump outside the aircraft and have a look at the model in flight. Alright, so here we are looking at the externals of the aircraft again now it's in flight. Not really much more to sort of talk about and show off other than what we saw on the ground. But it does give you a chance to sort of hear the sound set now. And it is a PT6 sound. Like, it definitely sounds like the PT6s that I know, that I've worked around them and been around them for not insignificant number of years. But as I said, like, the sound just seems flat. Like, it seems like the top and bottom of the sound seems to be cut off. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Yeah, it's a small thing, but yeah, it does feel a little bit off, that sound. But yeah, either way. So look, whether that's important to you, I'm not sure, but it is just something that, in my opinion, it definitely does seem to be a little off. As I said, I don't know whether this is a new sound set or whether this is just a rehash of the old FSX and prepared sound set. I don't know, but yeah, it just does seem a little bit off for me. Otherwise, visually, as I said, the aircraft is really stunning. Like, the team at Carenado did do a great job on the model, and it is really well done. They did a great implementation of the decal system with different colours across the variety of liveries that are included. And overall, visually, the aircraft is pretty damn stunning. Now, one of the things that I know many of my viewers, the viewers, do enjoy seeing is having a look at the aircraft at night, and what it looks like not flying in the daytime. So let's have a look at the lighting of the aircraft once the sun goes down. So here we are with the aircraft at night, and it's not like it's an airliner where it's sort of, you've got a lot of external lighting, or sort of big tail sort of stuff and whatever. It's fairly basic on this aircraft, but it does what it says on the tin. You've got the alternating illuminating landing lights, you've got nice glows coming from the navigation lights, and then you've got the wings, the ice wing inspection light on the pilot side. You also have a full suite of interior lighting that you can sort of see through the cockpit there, so let's jump inside and have a look at that. So here's the interior of the cockpit at night. So you do have a full set of backlit panel displays, as well as cockpit floodlights, which are fully controllable from your center console as well, and independent from each of the pilot and co-pilot sides as well. What we also have is we've also got the cabin lighting done as well. So you've got both main cabin lighting and then also independently just some reading lights. Unfortunately, the reading lights are not individually controllable, but yeah, you can have everybody on or not. The interior of the rear of the aircraft as well, while we're here we might as well have a look at it, is done pretty well, pretty basic. As I said, it's just the business interior that's been modelled in this aircraft. And of course, what business flight would not be complete without being able to have a nice table to be able to work on and enjoy your drink at 15,000 feet. And yeah, so animated, nice cool thing. That's a holdover from the old days, but it is kind of cool to have it there. And also, if you are feeling sleepy in the back, you can always bring it down at your window shade. So, a couple of cool little animated features in there. I really would like like a Scotch glass or something, but there you go. Alright, well, with that, what we'll do here is we might break the video here, and what we'll do is we'll head back. We've got to head back, but we'll be heading into our arrival at Loeys. We're about to start our approach plate, so we'll rejoin the video as we come in on approach to Loeys. Alrighty, here we are coming in on our approach to Loeys. We just popped out with a beautiful rainbow as we pop out from underneath these rain clouds. Right, so at least I don't have to worry about trying to make an approach like I did with the 146. Hopefully, as long as it stays clear below here. Alright, just descending. I spoke too soon, didn't I? I think I spoke too soon. Okay. Just checking my speed restrictions here, so below 175, giving our constant turn. always fun flying through the valley here, coming into Lowy. Haven't done a good Lowy approach in a while. Now, okay, so I've got the checks here. Gear expansion speed is 177. So I'm going to be watching for that shortly. We are below. It's like I had the runway in sight briefly. There it is, coming through the rain there. Okay, be off. A little bit below the slope. A bit lower on this approach than I should be, I think. Still clear of the terrain. What's interesting here is that the approach we're coming into is we're coming in 08, which is an RNAV approach. The ILS, it does technically have a back course, but it doesn't actually bring you to the threshold of 08. It takes you to the threshold of 26. So 26 is the nominal ILS approach, so that's why I haven't activated the ILS for this approach, because although it would pick me up, it doesn't actually, it only sort of helps me, the basics is mostly RNAV and visual for coming in to 08. So I'm going to juice our descent there so we can get into right flight path. So it is mostly a visual or RNAV approach for this one. A little slow. Now, the flaps on this aircraft are quite wide, so they do tend to act, they are very effective, the flaps on this aircraft, and they have modelled that part very, very well. So you definitely have to, as you bring the flaps in, you absolutely have to bring the power in. And now I've realised I'm too high, so I'm going to have to bring that down. This is one of the fascinating things about how well the weather is actually modelled in Microsoft Flight Simulator, because you do get that depth perception change because of the cloud bank. So I sort of had the perception I was too high, where I was too low, where actually I was too high. It's one of the things I love about this sim overall, is how it actually does that, and how it really enforces some of those visual challenges of coming in with which you actually experience in real life flying. Full. little bit of crosswind coming in here. A little bit long coming in, probably a 1,000-foot markers. Kicking the beta in. You see, and even just then, like, hearing the beta kick in there, like, that... The beta is just so damn noisy when you kick reverse in on a PT6. So, and that sound was like nothing, and it's just, don't get me wrong, like the performance was right. You know, I felt the good solid. You know, you used to get the good kick. It's a good solid kick. You got the slow down, so that part of it was absolutely spot on. You know, felt like it was good, but the sound was just nope. It just was empty. I'm trying to convey that feeling. It just feels, the sound set just feels empty. All right, flaps cleaned up. Taxi lights on, landing lights off, taxi lights on. Okay. All right, so what we'll do is we'll taxi and park up the aircraft, shut it down, and then we'll give our final thoughts on the PC-12 Carenado. Alright, so we are on the ramp, parking brake on, and engine condition lever to fuel cutoff, set, spinning down. Alright. Strobes off. Taxis, navs off, recognition, wing lights off. Should have them off earlier, but it was just from the nighttime shot. Alright, okay. Alternators are off. De-icing boots all off. Passengers released. Okay, that is it. And then we've got our avionics buses are off. And now our battery master off. And let's take our tablet out and let's open up our passenger, and we'll open up the rear cargo door as well to make sure our rich clientele can get all their ski gear out. Alright, now that we've secured the aircraft, let's go and outside and give our final thoughts. Alrighty, so final thoughts on the PC-12 from Carenado for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This one's a kind of tough. So straight up, I'm going to say your mileage may vary. So first off, the good parts. The model is great. It's gorgeous. It is incredibly well done. They've cleaned up. They've leveraged off their experience with the model. They've leveraged off their experience with the sim, and actually given us a really beautifully detailed rendition of the aircraft, like physical, you know, visual rendition of the aircraft. They've taken full advantage of giving us beautiful, high quality texture set with some great marking, some great experience and use of some of the technology in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The flight model is, as I said, I have to be very careful about talking about this because, as I said, I've never actually flown a PC-12 myself. However, having flown single-engine turboprops as both passenger and as pilot in command, I do have some experience. I have to say that it as a PT-6, it feels underpowered in the air and overpowered on the ground. But also underpowered on the ground in other ways. So it feels a bit of a mess. The sound set it feels like it's a good start, but it feels like it is a little underwhelming. It feels like there's just something missing about the sound set. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining it, but really, I mean, I've done wow, I've got I've got 7 or 8 flights in this rendition of the aircraft in this sim, and I had it for FSX and prepared and flew it for quite a bit. And yeah, the sound set just feels off. Is probably the best, as I said, the best way I can put it. It just feels like it's off. It's missing something about it. Whether it's volume, the top end, the bottom end, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't sound right. And then it's the other little details about the aircraft, like the fact that, as I said, like Carenado have shown through the modeling that they've really embracing Microsoft Flight Simulator and this new way of doing things, and yet as a developer that's provided a lot of the first-party aircraft, they still have not included interactive or even just referenceable checklists for the whole startup procedure in the sim in the expected checklist window. That's incredibly disappointing and kind of unforgivable. And it really gatekeeps virtual aviators who single monitor or who are new to the hobby or are using or experiencing this on console. So that for me is a real disappointment. Now, the other side of this equation is that this is probably also the only PC-12 that we're going to get. So, you know, if you're after a PC-12, then this is kind of it. Which also some of these, my other part was like, you know, why didn't they go with the NG? Like, you know, why did we not look at the NG or the NGX for this experience? You know, that's a separate question. But yeah, market it more actually as a PC-1245. And I guess finally, so it depends what you're after. What are you looking for with this aircraft? If you're looking to replicate PC-12 offs and you have a particular affinity for PC-12s, and I do, like I got them because of operations, particularly operations they do in Australia. So yeah, this is going to be the PC-12. This is what you're going to get. But if you're looking for a single turboprop business type, you know, commuter aircraft, then this aircraft really doesn't offer anything over and above the native TBM 930. If you're after the experience of a modern single engine turboprop business type aircraft, then you're going to get a lot of mileage out of the default 930, and this does not represent a step up from it. It does not. And, you know, yes, it has animated doors, but that's kind of the only separate up. Everything else kind of leads towards the 930. So, as I said, very clear, yeah, this is an add-on that is going to be very niche, and for payware, I kind of go, look, don't you, as I said, visually, model is stunning. Systems-wise, the model's not bad. Especially surprised that the Avidyne radar, weather radar is working, so that's cool. But does it differentiate itself enough for other users to get it? That's going to be up to you, but I would have to say no, it doesn't. Unless you specifically want to fly the PC-12, I think you're going to get more mileage out of the default 930 than you're going to get out of this aircraft. So, yeah, bit of a mixed review on that one. So, to round it up with, is it worth the money? That's going to be up to you. But if you're as I said, and if you're watching this and you love the PC-12, then you probably have already bought it, to be honest. But if you're just after a single turboprop experience, honestly, it's not worth it. I hate to say it. I didn't want the review to say that, but you know what? That's what the review says. So with that mixed sort of message, that is going to round out this review of the Carenado PC-12 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter and on Twitch. And just search NovaWing24. Alright folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.